Hey, take it away, Alan.
Hey folks, so I'm a fiddle player, but as Bruce alluded to just before, something happened within the last 6, 7 months, and I discovered some magic. Trying to keep my sanity during the pandemic, I looked around on the I looked around on the internet and found these incredible sites, storytelling sites, people telling these amazingly magical stories, and pretty soon I ended up down that rabbit hole. And tonight we're celebrating what's going to sound strange, but my storytelling bar mitzvah. you know, a bar mitzvah. A bar mitzvah is a rite of passage. It's a ritual that Jewish boys go through at the age of 13 or so. And at that point, they are accepted into the community as equals. So in a certain sense, there's something kind of magical going on within me to kind of embrace this storytelling community, especially communities like Storyspace, that are very, very important to me and that have been very welcoming to me. And, and tonight, tonight is brought to you by a Yiddish word called kabel. Yeah. So it's a Yiddish word, and what it means is to express or feel pride about something or someone, as in, "Oi, I'm kvelling." you know, and the thing is, like, the fact that Story Space is here, and that people like me can discover something and discover something about their creativity is something that is worth quelling about in a way. Not for me, not for what I might be able to achieve tonight, but for Story Space and places like that that are welcoming, that give the opportunity for people like myself to explore something at 69 years old, something that a year ago they knew very little about. So here's to you, Story Space. So the first story that is a story actually that I started at Story Space with. Um, well, actually, no. I'm going to start somewhere else. So, before the pandemic, before the pandemic, what I did was I played a lot of music. That's how I earned my living, playing music. And I also taught kids. I love teaching kids. And I used to go one Sunday a month to to a place where kids would gather and I would teach them songs. I would teach them fiddle tunes and we would have a great time just learning music together. And occasionally we would collaborate and learn some tunes together. So I'm going to tell you about one such instance. So we got together one Sunday and I said, "Hey kids, let's write a song together." And I said, "Yeah, that's great. Great idea. Let's do a song." "Yeah, what kind of song are we going to do, Mr. Kaufman?" And I said, "Well, that's entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you. What do you want to write?" "Hmm, Mr. Kaufman, um, let's write a, hmm, let's write a gospel song. Because we've been doing songs like I'll Fly Away and Will the Circle Be Unbroken. Those are really good songs. I think we could do a really good job at songs like gospel songs. Why don't we do that? And I said, that's a great idea. Anyone else have any idea? Mr. Kaufman, let's write a song about flying saucers. And I said, that's a great idea also, but that would be kind of hard to do. But I think I think that we're up to it. I think we could do such a thing. Yeah, let's consider that. Mr. Kaufman, what about me? Oh, okay. What do you have? Well, let's write a song. Hmm. Let's write a gospel song about flying saucers. Oh, well, that was going to be a little hard, you know. But I think I think all of you are up to it. I think we could do a great job with a gospel song about flying saucers. But let's think about this for a while. We're going to have to come up with ideas, okay? I'm going to have to ask you for to come up with some things that come into your head when you think of flying saucers. Mr. Kaufman? Yes. Well, they circle around in the sky. That's a great idea. They circle. I want all these things I want you to write down on paper, okay? Circle in the sky. Good idea. Good one. Mr. Kaufman? Yes. We could be the first ones to meet them. And we could be famous. We could be on CNN or MSNBC and we could become celebrities. Yeah, that's true. We could be the first one to meet them. That's a good idea. Let's write that down. Mr. Kaufman. They could land right in front of us. That's also a good idea. Just write it down. Anyone else? Anyone else have anything? Mr. Kaufman. It has to have something about Roswell in it. Roswell, New Mexico, you know, the place where they keep the aliens in dormitories and stuff, and they're not telling us anything about them. That's an idea. Good one. Mr. Kaufman. You know, I've been thinking, what do they eat? Maybe, I hope they don't eat us. Do we have any idea what they eat? That's an idea. Okay. We have to write all these things down, remember. You know something, children? I think we have a good number of ideas about flying saucers, but remember, this is a gospel song about flying saucers. So well, how can we make it into a gospel song? Mr. Kaufman. God. We have to make sure that God is in it. That's a good one. That's important, I think. It's a gospel song. God should be somewhere in the song. Mr. Kaufman, please, me. Okay, what you got? Okay, well, I think that it should have something like hallelujah. You should scream hallelujah somewhere in it. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so I want all of you kids to pass around these pieces of paper. Let's construct the song together. So that's what happened on that Sunday morning. We brainstormed about things, about things that belong in a gospel song about flying saucers. And now I'd like to play for you the song that we developed together collaboratively. But there's one part in it though, and there's a part in the song that came from one of the kids where you have to shout out hallelujah. Okay? So anyone here who wants to, while I'm singing, you can unmute at that point and scream out hallelujah. Okay? So here's the song. Thank God for flying saucers, a circling our great land. We ain't alone. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And that's what makes life grand. I'll be the first to meet them if those darn things ever land. So thank God for flying saucers, a circling our great land. I never been to Roswell or to New Mexico. Don't like science fiction or eerie things that glow. But I often think of aliens and what they understand. So thank God, flying saucers are circling our great land. Thank God for flying saucers circling our great land. We ain't alone. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And that's what makes life grand. I'll be the first to greet them if those darn things ever land. Thank God for flying saucers circling our great land. I wonder just how tall they are, if they believe in God, and if they spank their children or if they spare the rod. I sometimes wonder what they eat and how's their appetite. And you'll often find me looking up at those stars every night. So thank God for flying saucers circling our great land. We ain't alone.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And that's what makes life grand. I'll be the first to greet them if those darn things ever land. So thank God for flying saucers circling our great land.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So it's a wonderful thing to write songs with kids, and I can't tell you how much fun it is. So if you ever have the chance to do that, you should absolutely do that. Absolutely. So this brings me to this is actually a storytelling bar mitzvah, and a bar mitzvah is nothing if there's no food. So we're going to start with dessert here with watermelon, because I like watermelon. I love watermelon, and especially in the summer, I associate the summer with watermelon. So it just so happens that on June 21st of this year, I had this hunger for watermelon. And I got up and put on some clothes and left the house and went to the supermarket in order to get some watermelon because we didn't have any in the refrigerator. So I entered the supermarket and I started going down the aisle in my shopping cart. And I went past all these things that there was aisles on there was spinach and lettuce and avocados and squash and what have you. But I had my eyes on the aisle that would bring me to watermelon. And I stopped right in front of the watermelon, and there was so much watermelon. There's these big, big things of watermelon, and then the whole watermelon whole in half and quarters and triangles and in little cups with saran wrap over them. And I was just trying to think of like, what do I want? I know I want watermelon, but I didn't think beforehand just what kind of watermelon. So I'm thinking about that. And then there's this woman who comes in the other direction with her shopping cart, and she stops right in front of me, and she looks at me and she says, "Can you really yodel?" And I thought to myself, "Oh, how, how does she know?" But then it occurred to me, you see, because when I left the house that morning, I put on a nice shirt, a yellow shirt. It was because it was clean. The main part of it was because it was clean. But but then I realized what shirt I was wearing. You see, and and the shirt was a shirt that my friend got me a couple of years ago for a birthday that said "Chicks dig guys that yodel." So I realized what she had in mind. But nonetheless, I didn't know what to respond to this woman because I had experienced yodeling, but I've yodeled on stages before. I've yodeled on CDs and what have you. I've even yodeled actually on a Jimmy Fallon skit, and this is really true. If you do a search on Fallon and yodel, this is kind of crazy thing that I did for Jimmy Fallon that has like 8 million views on YouTube. But I didn't. I'm in a supermarket. What am I going to do? You know. So I thought to myself, I'll answer, yes, ma'am, I can yodel. And then she looks at me and she says, prove it. And I thought to myself, well, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do here because the thing is like there are some kind of really strange laws in some state books of like in Canada, there are like you can be jailed for the most crazy things. And I thought, they might think of it as like abuse, It's just like, I don't know. So anyway, I got calm, I got collected, I closed my eyes and as soon as I said that, the woman starts screaming, "Oh my God!" She screamed it so loud that the people from the back of the store, the managers, they started moving forward, and I said, "Oh, I'm in for it now. This is really, really terrible." And and the managers were starting to come forward, but then this woman said, "No, it's okay, fine." I was so relaxed at that moment because I was terrified prior to that. And that woman says to me, "You know, thank you so much. You were quite the yodeler." And I didn't know that. I thought maybe it was a joke, but you really can yodel. You really can yodel. Thank you so much. You know, I'm going to tell my husband tonight that I met a yodeler in the supermarket. So I said, "Have a nice day. Thank you so much." And then so she starts to move her shopping cart down the aisle, and then I said, "Ma'am," and she turns around and I said, "I have a question to ask you." And she said, "Sure. What's the question?" And I pointed to my shirt and I said, "Is it true? Do chicks really dig guys who yodel?" And she looks at me and she says, "Oh, yes. Most certainly, yes." So I went home and I ate my watermelon and I broke out laughing. And I laughed so much that the watermelon practically came out of my nose. And I learned that, anything can happen in a stop and shop. You know, who knows? And that's my story.
Bravo.
So we're going to have a little musical interlude here just as a palate cleanser. So um, I like experimenting with music and looking into tunes, especially tunes that I consider kind of trite, that I've been playing for so long. And I'm trying to figure out where the music is in them. So there's this tune that I was over the winter, especially it's so right now I can still see the snow outside. And so I'm still thinking of winter. And there's that song Jingle Bells that people associate with Christmas, but really, Jingle Bells really it's it comes it first arrived on the scene in 1857, and it was written by James Lord Pierpont Morgan, and it was published under the title of The One Horse Open Sleigh. It had nothing to do with Christmas originally, and um, and it's kind of an interesting thing that there's a lot of trivia associated with Jingle Bells. Like it's the first song that was broadcast from space in the Gemini mission in 1965. But what really is interest to me about Jingle Bells is that you could take something like Jingle Bells and right, and you can move it around, just move it a little bit, just into, in this case, into a minor key, and let's see what happens to it. Just can you hear that? It just changes a little bit. So I just want to kind of show you a little bit of just what can happen taking kind of a happy tune like Jingle Bells and putting it into a very kind of contemplative place.
Lovely,
Okay.
lovely.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that, Alan.
Thank you. It sounds
Okay.
like a Western.
So
Okay.
a couple of us thought it, at least a couple of us thought it sounded like klezmer.
Right. It has kind of a, especially when you move it into the
Like a,
minor mode. So
yeah.
we're going to continue with the bar mitzvah food theme. Okay, and so and this is a story about bagels. It's a story of bagels. It's a story that I'm going to bring you back to Brooklyn in the 1960s. And it's a story about Moishele, who's a sweet 10-year-old boy in Brooklyn. And he's a wiry kid, you know. His mother tried to fatten him up to put food in him, but to no avail, you know. It's just really difficult to get food in him, you know. And she would say, "Ess, mein Kind, eat, my child," you know. But whatever he ate, it wouldn't put any weight on him. So his mother used to put coins on the washing machine, knowing that if he got hungry, he could go out of the house and around the corner and go to the bagel bakery and get a couple of bagels and have something to eat. And he would do that from time to time. So one day, he grabs some coins from the washing machine, puts it in his pocket, leaves the house, and goes around the corner. Now, as soon as he turns the corner, he could smell the bagels, because anyone who's ever had any experience with bagel bakeries, from a block away, you can smell the bagels, fresh bagels. So he's already smelling the bagels, and he walks straight, following his nose, to the bagel bakery. As soon as he gets into the bagel bakery, he gets online, and eventually he gets to the counter. And behind the counter is Sammy, the owner of the bagel bakery. And Sammy sees him and he says, "Oh, Moishula, you know, my favorite customer. What will you have today?" And Moishula says, "I think I'll have a plain bagel, thank you." And Sammy says, "A plain bagel? Not a salt bagel and not a poppy bagel, not a bagel with everything on it? Are you okay? Maybe I should feel your head. Are you a little sick? You know, so it's like, I don't understand." And Moishla says, "No, I'm fine. I just want a plain bagel, please." And Sammy reaches behind, gets a nice fresh bagel, puts it in a bag, folds the end of it, puts it on the counter. Moishla reaches into his pocket, puts the coins on the counter. Moishla takes the bag and holds it. And he stands there. Sammy says, "No? Anything else I can help you with?" And Moishla says, "Yes, I have a question." And Sammy says, "Well, what's the question?" And Moishla says, "You know, when you eat the bagel, when you finish the bagel, what happens to the hole?" And Sammy looks at him and says, "What a question! A Talmud Chacham, a smart boy. I can't believe, you know, I've had this store for 15 years. No one has asked me that question before. This is the deepest of the deep. This is deep. But you know, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what the answer is. But what you need to do, you know, I'm going to call Mordecai, my assistant, to be by the register. I'm going to come by and take you, and we'll go into the back of the store, and there are two seats, and you'll sit down in one, I'll sit down in the other, and I'll tell you exactly I'll tell you what you need to know. So he comes and gets Moishla, and he brings him to the back, and he says, listen, Moishla, you have to listen really carefully at everything that I say, and follow these instructions completely, just as I say them. He says, "Okay, when you go home, you're going to take the bagel out of the bag. You're going to take the bagel out of the bag, and you're going to take a bite of it. And you're going to eat that, the first bite. And then you're going to turn the bagel, and you're going to eat the second bite. It's going to be so good because it's a fresh bagel, so warm. And you continue on the bagel, taking bites and bites and bites until you get to the last piece of the bagel that's left that's not in your tummy. And when you get that last piece of the bagel, I want you to do this and hold on to the hole. And keep your fist really tight because the hole is going to be inside your hand. And then I want you to run back to the store. Do this exactly. Okay? Go. Go. And he did. He went back home. He ate his bagel very carefully, just do every instruction, and he ran back to the store. And when he ran back to the store, he's so excited. He got online. He was so nervous, he almost felt like he had to pee. He got to the counter. Sammy's there. And Sammy says, "No, you haven't?" Moishla showed him his hand. He said, "Okay, show me." And Moishla opened up his hand. He looked in his hand. He said, "Oh, I must have done something wrong. There's nothing there, garnished. Nothing. Nothing. Maybe it fell through my fingers. What happened? I thought I would have the hole." He was almost in tears. Sammy said, "Listen, I'm going to get Mordecai here in front of the register, and we'll go back. We'll go back in the back, and I'll explain to you what's happening." So he came to get Moishele. They sat in the back of the store, one seat for him, one seat for the other. And Sammy says to Moishele, "Listen, I want you to see your hand again." He opened his hand. Look, I see something in your hand. And what I see in your hand is what's in the whole world. There's plenty of it in the whole world, and it's in your hand too, because if you see really, I can see it, and I'm going to have to train you to see it too. What I see in your hand is I see hope. Hope is everywhere. Hope is, the whole world is filled with hope. The world couldn't exist for a single moment without hope. Afilo rega achad, even a single second, it couldn't exist without hope. There's hope when your grandma is sick and you want her to get better. You have hope there. When you have your briefcase of books with your homework and you lose it somewhere and you want to find it, you have hope that you're going to find it. And when your mama and papa are arguing, you have hope that they'll kiss and make up. Things would be better. Hope is everywhere, Moishele, and you have to remember that. And you can't forget that for a single second. When you look through a bagel, anytime you look through a bagel, you look through the hole in the bagel, you'll see hope. Hope is everywhere. And may you never, never, ever lose hope. And to my friends on Storyspace, some words from the great Martin Luther King Jr. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us hope. Thank you.
That was so beautifully told.
And
Wow.
this is the last story.
Can you give us bagels too?
Wonderful, Alan. Wonderful.
This is the last story. And this last story, we'll end this with death. I was advised to end with something uplifting, so of course I chose death. What do I know? But my point here is to try to reframe something that may for many of us be in the back recesses of our minds and fear something really difficult. And perhaps through storytelling, we could take a look at it through fresh eyes. So here, my dear friends, is my storytelling attempt at explaining something. Now, you're wondering who I am. You say I look familiar. Is there something about my face? Maybe you've seen me before. Maybe not. But let me introduce you. Let me introduce myself to you, I mean. I'm a nice guy. I love people. I'm friendly. Your mother would like me. I remember birthdays. I would remember your birthdays. I even remember the dates of people's death. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm a nice guy. That's the important thing to know about me. But the second important thing to know about me is that I'm the angel of death. Now, an angel in Hebrew is a malach, which means a messenger. They're messengers. That's what we do, you know. We have a job to do, just like a plumber or a carpenter or a cab driver. In fact, cab driver, that's a really good one. That's a really good way of explaining it, because what we do is we take people from one place and we bring them to another place. That's what cab drivers do, you know, picking people up, taking them from one place to another. So, so yesterday, I get this call from the big boss, you know, the big boss up there, the dispatcher, and he says, "I need you to pick up Mr. Rosenstein at 242 Kingbridge in the Bronx." And he's 92 years old, but it's his time to go. So of course I go there. It's a nice high rise, a big building. and so I get there. I enter the building. I take the elevator up to the third floor. I find the apartment. I knock on the door and I wait a little bit because he's 92 years old. It's going to take a little bit of time to get to the door. But eventually he gets to the door and he opens it up a little bit, a crack. And he says, "Who's there?" And I said, "I'm your ride." And he said, "Ride? You mean like a cab driver? You mean like like a car service?" I, I didn't call the cab's curse. I didn't call a cab or car service. I didn't call anybody. Yeah, I think you're making a big mistake. You're making a big mistake. And I said, "Sir, are you Mr. Rosenstein, 242 Kingsbridge, apartment 3C?" And he says, "Yes, that's me. But you made a big mistake because I didn't call a taxi cab or a car service." And I say, "Well, is your wife Estelle, who passed away a year and a half ago?" And he said, "Yeah, my Estelle. I miss her every day." "How did you know?" And I say, "Well, I'm trying to tell you, Mr. Rosenstein, that I work for the big boss. I work for the guy upstairs, and he knows everything. He knows everything about everybody. He's like the big boss who knows everything. Do you understand?" And Mrs. Rosenstein's eyes got really big. And he says, "Oh, are you the angel of death? Are you the Malach HaMavis? Oh no, I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready to go because my numbers are good. I went to the doctor and the doctor told me that I'm as healthy as someone half my age. And besides that, I always wanted to I always wanted to do an oil painting, and I got the paints and I got the easel and I got everything, and I'm going to start this week and I'm going to do an oil painting. And besides, you know, I've never gotten lost before. There's certain people who get lost and they figure out where they are and they come back. I've never been lost before. No, I'm not going. I'm not ready to go." And I faced Mr. Rosenstein and I said, "Listen, I hear everything that you're saying, and I feel it in my heart, and I know what you're feeling. But I want you to listen to it this way. I want you to think of it this way, that I'm taking you to a family reunion. I'm taking you to see people who you haven't seen in years. People who love you and who miss you, and you miss them as well. And this is the opportunity that you can be with them finally, you know. They've been thinking about you, I'm sure, and you about them. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to just relax and take a deep breath and exhale and put your hand out and keep on breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And keep your hand out. Just do that. You're doing great. You're doing fine now. Just keep doing it. And a minute later, our fingers touched, and he was gone. So it's like being a cabbie, picking up people, taking them from one place to another, reuniting people with their loved ones, reuniting people who are in their thoughts all the time, and making it possible for once again for them to be together. You know, it's a job. It's a holy job.
Oh,
Alan, you're fantastic.
woo!
So, you know, being that that was kind of a sad story, being that this is a bar mitzvah, though, I just want to leave you with just one simple melody here, just a happy tune here, just for a moment.
Hey!
Whoa!
Ho, 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 ho!
Oh, what a program!
Oh yeah, Ellen.
Oh,
We had bagels and lox at your bar mitzvah tonight for dinner. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Just
Ellen.
wonderful.
Alan?
Congratulations. That was awesome. Thank you.
Alan, can we have a brief yodeling demonstration?
A what demonstration?
A brief yodeling demonstration?
Oh yeah, yodel.
Yodeling. Yodeling.
Adiole,
Yeah!
Yeah,
All right.
right. And if you were belling and yodeling at the same time, I guess that would be kvodling.
So thank you everyone on Storyspace. Thank you everyone on these wonderful storytelling sites all over the place during this pandemic. You know, it's just like we've had an amazing effect on so many of us, and I'm really deeply grateful.
Me too.
I would agree with that. I think that the story Zooms have not only sustained us, but they have enriched us. They've connected us. And brought new voices to storytelling, like Alan Kaufman. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah,
Woohoo!
they enlarged us.
Well, Alan knows, but some of you who are visiting us for the first time, and hopefully not the last time, Alan knows that we have a little ritual here that was passed down from us by our series co-founder, Brother Blue, where after each feature, all of us face the feature, and you're all welcome to unmute at this point. And what we do is we look at the feature's little square on our computer screen. We cross our hands like this, and we part them with an audible but voiceless because you, Alan, have taken us to a place through words, to a place beyond words, which I think is called yodeling. And we are just delighted that you are a member of our Storyspace family. We're delighted that you brought all these wonderful people here so they could tune in and find out what we're all about. And hopefully, maybe some of them, most of them, all of them will become repeat offenders. All right. Look, somebody's whispering something very intimate sounding there.
Then there's the kitty. Don't forget to feed the kitty if you can afford, or if you're inclined to, or if you'd like to and you haven't already.
What's that whisper?
I think we're hearing somebody's whispered phone conversation. Whoever that is, if you can mute, because I'm having trouble figuring out who you are.
Someone's going somewhere at 7 in the morning
Yes.
and hopes to be home by noon, if that helps.
So I also want to thank all my friends, you know, in the music community who've come out to support me on this, and also my brother Harvey and my son Ezra also who are
And
here.
next week's feature is in the house right now. I've got her in the square next to Bruce. Selena Eisenberg is going to be next week. And I just found out that somebody did the count for
Aha! There she is.
Hey.
Spotted.
A tough act to follow. Goodness gracious. Wonderful, Alan.
And another special milestone that's coming up. Apparently, we will have had 100 days of online storytelling as of our feature on March 1st, who's going to be Auntie Oni Lasana.
Oh,
So
yes.
you can
Whoa.
keep on coming back.
And our features are just coming to us from everywhere. We got next week is Montreal. The week after that is Philadelphia, and the week after that is I'll tell you in a second.
Ed Lewis, Sacramento, California.
Yeah, Sacramento. Yep. So we're just we're hitting them from all over the continent.
Yeah, and we've had Rona Barber from was a feature from England.
Yep. And some other past features here tonight.
People from India, people from San Francisco, people from Mexico and Scotland and Ireland.
Yep, gotta love this Zoom age of storytelling, golden age. All right, well, we have just a couple more brief traditions. Back when we were brick and mortar, it was the putting away of the chairs, which was the bane of our existence. You're all in your own homes now, so you're on the honor system for putting away your own chairs. And the way we like to close out is the way that our series founder, Brother Blue, used to close us out for almost 18 years of Tuesday nights. And it's a call and response that says something that I believe is the glue that holds us together, because if you say something's going to happen, it's going to happen. And what we say is that next week,
Next week.
at the same time,
At the same time.
in the same place,
In the same place.
if the good Lord's willing,
If the good Lord's willing.
and the creek don't rise,
The creek don't rise.
the angel of death doesn't show up, we're going to get it.
You're gonna get
Yeah,
it.
We're going to hit it.
we're gonna
Hit it.
hit it.
We're going to do it.
We're gonna
Do
do
it.
it.
One more time. Yes, we are. Safe home, everybody. Oh, you're already there.
Yeah, safe home.
Thanks so much for coming out. You're welcome to hang around and chat for a few more minutes. If you need to go, you're welcome to leave. Thanks so much, everybody. And thank you, Alan Kaufman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Bruce.
Bruce, you're still recording, by the way.
Mike is still recording.
Well,
And Bruce Marcus, our host for the evening. Yes, Bruce.
yes. Does Alan want to say one last thing for the recording before I stop recording? Alan?
I think Alan just ejected. Oh, there he is.
Alan, do you want to say one last thing for your own recording?
Yeah, that I'm very grateful to everyone here. Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Okay. I'm going to stop the recording.